All right, welcome back. Another edition Bears Nation podcast. It is Monday, March 13th. And Monday episode, first time in a while because we had breaking news on Friday, late Friday. Couldn't get to it before, so we're doing it now. And this is Bears Nation podcast. Of course, brought to you by OnTap Sportsnet, our new partner. Check them out. Everything that you need, Chicago sports, podcasts, articles, everything you need, which is now your host for Bears Nation podcast, which is great. So, Kevin, it happened. You called it. We kind of called it, but you really called. Like, this was all, like, you're texting me, oh my God, we called it. Oh my, and this was you. Like, I agreed with you that it could happen, but you were the one that said verbatim, yeah, the Bears could trade down to 8 or 9 by the end of this week, in the next couple days, is exactly what you said. It's on our Instagram at Bears Nation Pod. Go look at it. Go check that out. For just us taking a lap of victory, really a lap of victory, Kevin, because the Bears trade down on Friday to number 9. They trade with the Panthers, and they get back not just number 9, but they get back a 2025 first rounder. They also get back number 61 overall in this draft in 2023, and then did I say 2025 first rounder? I meant 2024 first rounder, and a 2025 second rounder, as well as, and this is really the big thing, DJ Moore. Of all things, a guy who is a 1,000-yard receiver, an unequivocal wide receiver one, echelon above Darnell Mooney, who we really like, but is better as a number 2, who is way better than Chase Claypool, who's now your number 3, and really just finally brings together a wide receiver room, gives Justin Fields that star that we've been looking for, because now this just shows that the Bears believe in Justin Fields. This is their guy. It shows where you stand. Now the offseason's set. You're at number 9. You're not going any farther back. You're probably taking, Pete Skoronsky or Paris Johnson Jr. or Broderick Jones or Tyree Wilson if he falls that far, or Luke Van Ness, whatever. All that. But you get your receiver for your quarterback, your unequivocal number 1 wide receiver, and now you're set. And now you head into free agency, which starts not right now, actually, as we record this, free agency tampering period, quote unquote, just opened. But free agency itself doesn't start for a couple days, which we will be back on Wednesday to talk about free agency stuff. But for right now, Kevin, it happened. You called it. Bears trade down to number 9. You're out of the first pick. You have DJ Moore. You have the number 9 overall pick this year, as well as now the 61st overall pick this year, and a first-round pick next year that might be top 5 as well. But it happened. You called it. You're a clairvoyant.
It's unbelievable. I mean, there's a reason Fleeced is was trending on the internet on Friday. And this is consensus. National media, Chicago, this was an incredible move. And to be honest, is it more than what you expected?
Yes.
No pun intended. More. DJ Moore.
Yeah, nice. 100%. I mean, we were sitting here talking, last week about, well, you're probably getting obviously the trade down this year and then maybe 2 more first round picks. And after that, it's kind of murky. And if you believe what you saw on Twitter, that Carolina wanted to include a 2025 first rounder. And instead, Ryan Poles said, no, I want DJ Moore. And then Carolina was like, well, but what about that 2025 first round? He said, no, I want DJ Moore. Carolina obviously caved, which shows you how desperate they are. Everyone thinks they're going to take CJ Stroud now, especially if you look at the gambling odds. CJ Stroud went from 4-1 to about minus 450, probably trending towards minus 1,000 now. But, Ryan Poles holds his ground. And at a time when we talked about players in these trades, we talked about guys, like DeForest Buckner, maybe if you were talking about the Colts, maybe Brian Burns if you were talking about the Panthers, but DJ Moore was not even somebody that was kind of on the radar because very affordable contract. He's under contract for the next 3 seasons. And, seemingly a guy that if you're the Panthers and you're drafting your franchise quarterback, someone you'd want, a receiver that you would want. DJ Moore's only 25. He's 25. Younger than, or he's 20 something days older than Velus Jones Jr., which is crazy. And which you'll see the jokes on Twitter for that too. But I mean, yeah, it's just way more than I was expecting. Getting 61 overall this year helps a lot too. We'll get into that because that gives you more potential for a trade up if you really like somebody in the second round, which, if one of these receivers falls, like some people talk about, or anybody, if somebody always falls in the NFL draft, people always do, but gives you more firepower this year and really just opens up flexibility. But the most important thing is you have a true 1,000-yard receiver, a true Pro Bowl, all-pro caliber receiver for Justin Fields, and just really, like I said in the intro a little bit, now DJ Moore's your 1. Darnell Mooney's your 2, which I think he's best suited for.
People might argue that with you, but that doesn't really matter.
That Darnell Mooney's your 2.
Yeah, that
Chase
Claypool's a 2.
Well, as things stand right now, I would say, Moore is your 1. Darnell Mooney's your 2. Chase Claypool is your 3. Cole Kmet had his coming out party this last year, so that gives you a 4th quality receiving option. Then you throw in, Velus Jones Jr. or Economia St. Brown or whoever they're going to end up signing from free agency off, practice squads or undrafted free agents, whatever. But the main point is your top 4 receivers are all legitimate receivers with NFL experience, and that number 1 being a true star in DJ Moore, which is huge.
There's just a ton to unpack with this. Like there's so much to unpack about, what the future picks mean and the fact that 2024 first rounder could be top 5. The NFC South is an awful division, and we'll break this down because all of a sudden we're fans of 2 teams next year. You're a fan of the Chicago Bears and you're a fan of the Carolina Panthers, or you're a fan of the teams against the Carolina Panthers. Sorry, that's what it means. You're a fan of like 17 other teams throughout the year. But to me, DJ Moore's the kicker, right? And that's what I mean. Like you unpack everything, but that's the kicker because we talked about the possibilities open to the Bears this offseason of trading for DeAndre Hopkins and trading for, Mike Evans or T. Higgins, right? And we posed this a million times throughout the offseason, and it was valid because we've seen it throughout NFL history, especially recently, of the teams going out and getting that player for their young quarterback, and the Dolphins getting Tyreek Hill and all these different instances, right? And in all those instances, you as a team had to give up at least a first rounder and more for those players. Now you get your first round pick and you get a first rounder and you don't give anything up for him. Yeah. That's why this is the kicker. And I think there's a lot of people who are still hesitant to say DJ Moore is a surefire number 1 guy. There's a lot of people. I see it a lot. Trust me, I'm running these accounts and everything. And even on our own Instagram account and our own TikTok, there's a lot of people in the comments like, I don't know, is DJ Moore really the number 1 overall? And because he is sort of the premise of this whole trade, in my opinion, right? Again, like the kicker, I just want to break down a couple stats here from DJ Moore, right? So to me, the comparison for this is Stephon Diggs to the Bills in 2021.
I like that.
And the stats in a majority of categories here favor DJ Moore when you look at the first 5 years. So Diggs spent 5 years with the Vikings before he went to Buffalo. Moore spent 5 years with Carolina before going to the Bears just now. And it's worth noting that I'll read you the quarterbacks that DJ Moore had played with since 2018. All right.
I saw this tweet. It's a brutal list.
Taylor Heineke, Kyle Allen, Cam Newton again in 2019, Kyle Allen for 12 games in 2019, Will Grier for 2 games in 2019, Teddy Bridgewater for 15 games in 2020, PJ Walker for a game in 2020, Sam Darnold for 11 games in 2021, Cam Newton for 5 games in 2021, PJ Walker again for 1 game in 2021, and then this past year, 2022, Baker Mayfield for 6 games, Sam Darnold for 6 games, for PJ Walker for 5 games. So the fact that I'm going to read these stats, just keep in the back of your mind that those were DJ Moore's quarterbacks, okay? And yes, Stephon Diggs' quarterbacks while he was in Minnesota weren't great either for that time period.
Well,
but he had a year, Kirk Cousins, I think.
And that Case Keenum
year, which was crazy. But DJ Moore 2018, rookie year, 788 yards, 2 touchdowns. Then he has 3 straight 1,000-yard seasons from 2019 to 2021. And then, respectively, in 2019, 1,175 yards, 4 touchdowns, 1,193 yards, 4 touchdowns in 2020, 1,157 yards, 4 touchdowns, 2021. And then most recently in 2022, 7 touchdowns, uptick in touchdowns there, 888 yards. Now look at Stephon Diggs stats, all right? So Diggs in his first 5 seasons, 2 1,000-yard seasons. Moore had 3 1,000-yard seasons. Diggs in his first 5 seasons, 4,623 total receiving yards. Moore, 5,201. Diggs 30 touchdowns in his first 5 years. Moore has 21, so he falls to Diggs there. Diggs 365 receptions in his first 5 years, Moore 364. And we all know what happened once you put Stephon Diggs into an offense with a really good quarterback, a guy who's going to air it out, and an offense that's tailored around him. And that's I completely expect DJ Moore's numbers to go up. Like, I don't think that you should approach this like, well, the ceiling for DJ Moore is what we've seen in the first 5 years. It's only going to be 1,100 yards and 4 touchdowns. No, Justin Fields is going to be his guy. They're going to throw the ball more now that they have, receivers and comfortability with guys who are proven to be good in the league consistently. He's a deep threat. Everyone remembers the Hail Mary that he caught in the final play of the game. Yes, he took off his helmet and ended up costing them the game, but right. I don't think that's really a testament to his character or anything. Like, there's also a little worried about that. But
as far as that goes, like, I think we could say Matt Eberflus is a better coach that has a better handle on his locker room than Matt Rule was.
Yeah, very true. Like, he's going to that's a phenomenal point. 100%. But I just wanted to, to me, again, when I just keep DJ Moore is the kicker. Like, you got yourself a wide receiver one. He has the potential to be a top 10 wide receiver in this league. And if you look back at this trade from 3 years from now, and DJ Moore is a Pro Bowler at least once, and maybe an All Pro at least once, it's arguably the greatest trade down in NFL draft history. Not the greatest trade in NFL history because of the Herschel Walker trade that was just mind blowing. But I mean, a lot, like a year from now, if the Carolina Panthers have a top 5 pick, or if the Carolinas are bad enough to where that pick is top 5 for the Bears, and DJ Moore is a 1,200-yard receiver, I mean, Ryan Poles, you're here for 8 more years. Like you bought yourself 8 more years with this franchise.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, in a hilarious turn of events too, Stephon Diggs also at one point took off his helmet and threw into the crowd, but it just happened to be a game that ended. They didn't need to kick the PAT, so he got away with it, which is a hilarious turn of events. But yeah, I mean, I completely agree. I think Moore could be that, that guy that gets up to 1,200, 1,300, 1,400 yards, whatever you want to set that ceiling at. And obviously there's people who are still skeptical about Justin Fields as far as his passing ability goes, as far as who he is as a quarterback. Well, regardless, you're about to find out, because and we're Justin Fields guys on this show. Like, we think that Justin Fields is the franchise guy. We think he's your quarterback. We think this is the way to go forward. But even if you don't think that, like, you're about to find out now, because DJ Moore obviously bring up the big play threat, and that was, what Chase Claypool was supposed to be. Like you said, they're going to throw more now. This isn't Simba Webster and Byron Pringle and N'Keal Harry and Equanimity St. Brown anymore. Mm-hmm. I said it 5 minutes ago, however long ago. This is now DJ Moore, Darnell Mooney, Chase Claypool, and Cole Kmet. Like, that's a legitimate receivers, and that's a legitimate receiving core. That's 4 legitimate receivers who can score, who can go up and get the ball, who can make a big play. I mean, how many times this year did we see Cole Kmet kind of get up and bring down a jump ball or a 50-50 ball? Like, we saw he has that ability too. DJ Moore, obviously, you bring up the Hail Mary, just one of a number of plays. Chase Claypool was brought here because he has raw athletic ability that, kind of lends him to be able to make those kinds of catches. We didn't see it with the Bears, but that raw ability is there. Darnell Mooney, we've seen for a couple of years now what he can do. So even if you aren't the biggest Justin Fields person, regardless, you're about to find out, and regardless, you're in it for year, because this move shows that the Bears didn't like any of the quarterbacks overwhelmingly. So we're like, okay, we'll get him, even Anthony Richardson, or even like somebody to compete with Justin Fields. This was, okay, Fields is our guy. We're going to trade down and get him more weapons to, support him and help us, push for a playoff spot. Even if you don't get to the playoffs, like 8-9 is probably a good season for you this year. That's a huge one. That's a 5-win increase. That's a good season, especially if you're fighting as Kevin's favorite in the hunt. If you're in the hunt graphic the entire year, that's a successful season if you miss out by like a game. So yeah, I mean, this is great. Polls, I mean, like, fleeced was trending for a reason. Everyone's like, why would Carolina do this? This doesn't make sense. But now here we are, and now you go forward. And I mean, for the Bears, this is huge. And it's, not only do you give up, like, because you brought up the point, you didn't even have to really give up anything for DJ Moore that you weren't already giving up. You gave up the number 1 overall pick, which everybody knew you were trying to get rid of. Every time we talked about, even a couple weeks ago, we were talking about, okay, T. Higgins, what do we think you'd have to get out? And we said, okay, well, you should do the trade with the Colts first, because if you could get number 35 from the Colts, that'll be part of what you send back to Cincinnati for T. Higgins. We're talking about DeAndre Hopkins. Well, could you maybe get away with giving up just a late round pick for DeAndre Hopkins? Mike Evans, what would he want? And we're going to be doing all this back and forth. Every single one of those conversations started with, well, you have to do the trade first, because you're probably going to be giving away some of the capital that you get in that trade. Don't even have to have that conversation anymore. Now you give away the pick. You give away the pick that everybody knew you were trying to get rid of, and you get back DJ Moore. You kill 2 birds with 1 stone, essentially. And you're still in that top 10 where you can get a Pete Skoronski, who is a premium position, whether it be guard or tackle, which is something that you need. You can still get, or one of the offensive linemen that you take. Maybe Tyree Wilson does slip. Maybe Jalen Carter slips. Maybe Jalen Carter falls down the board, and there's whatever however he answers the interviews. Okay, he answers it well enough to still be a first-round pick and not fall too far. But a team in the first 8 is kind of wary, and they have other needs, or maybe they simply have players graded higher. We've been hearing all this steam on Tyree Wilson. Maybe there's more trades for more of these quarterbacks because people want to take Levis or Richardson, because now Houston, there's going to be quarterbacks the first 2. So that leaves half the quarterback pool in the first round out after the first 2 picks, after the first 30 minutes of the draft. 2 of the 4 quarterbacks that are deemed first round eligible or first round, worthy are going to be gone. So maybe somebody gets a little bit nervous. Maybe a team gets a little bit. So maybe Jalen Carter falls to you at 9 and you're able to still get a guy that's a quote unquote blue chip player. Not to say that you can't anyway, but it's just really a lot going for the Bears here. This is a great position for them. I know some people are a little disappointed they're all the way down at 9, but I think you're still in a great position. If the cost of getting DJ Moore was going from 4 to 9, you take that all day.
Yeah, 100%. And I think, again, we talked about this on the show last time, was I think the fallout of Jalen Carter is a big reason why they were comfortable moving down to 9. And again, they still could get him at 9, but it was exactly what we had said. Well, you know that at number 4, you're probably not getting Will Anderson. So what's the difference between going between 4 and 9? There's no one you're going to regret not getting between 4 and 9 because you went down to 9 because you're already out on Will Anderson. What's that?
Theoretically,
right. So it made total sense. And if I'm being honest, it's probably in the back of their mind, the whole Jalen Carter thing, that
it's a possibility,
that there is a chance that they could still get him at 9. And I think, the thing is, they now have the leverage in that situation. They can wait 2 months, right? They don't have to be, they can wait as long as they want to see what details are released about, his whole role in the situation, right? And then see what other teams are saying about it. And on draft day, see if teams are panicking about it. And then they don't have to be in any sort of rush to make a decision, where if they're at number 4, and Will Anderson was taken, and then it's like, well, do we take Carter? Like, what's the consensus, or what do we do, right? Like, they're in a very comfortable spot. That's, again, the other luxury of just trading earlier, is you don't have to make, rush decisions on draft day, which is a very hectic time. You have decided what you're going to do. You can let free agency play out based off of what you have now done. And we just got news from Adam Schefter that the Bears have signed linebacker TJ Edwards to a 3-year deal, played for the Eagles, so he's got Super Bowl experience. He's not phenomenal, but sort of I guess as quickly as I can put it, equivalent to like Nicholas Morrow. I mean, he's not an upgrade over him by any means. But he's
probably a little bit, though, because Morrow only got a 1-year deal, and Edwards are giving 3.
Yeah, and he's a solid player. And I think what the Bears are going to do here throughout free agency, I think they're going to go after players who have significant playoff experience, who have been there in the biggest moments. Again, we've already heard the rumors about Mike McGlinchey and Orlando Brown, 2 players that were in conference championships and the Super Bowl, and I think that's going to be a common theme. I believe TJ Edwards is also pretty young. Let me check real quick. 26. So
I was gonna say
that's also going to be a common theme. But so let's go to
that real quick on TJ Edwards. Like, that's the kind of player that, the Bears that we kind of said to target. Like, if you're not going to get a star like Orlando Brown, you're like, don't overpay for guys. Like, get somebody who's solid, somebody who you think could work well with Jack Sanborn in the middle, and then just go from there. Like, I think that's good. I think that's solid. Obviously, that's just off the top of my head. But anyway, you were saying.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's just going to be a theme of them, finding a lot of, and I said last time, I don't think they're going to, I don't think that's going to preclude them from signing certain players that are a little bit older. But like, I think the general theme is, hey, let's get guys coming off that rookie contract, 26 or 27, because they know, hey, this is not, we are not pulling a Los Angeles Rams from 2021. We're not pulling a Philadelphia Eagles from 2022. Where we're going to sell out all of our assets for 1 year, right? We know that this is a 4-year window, 3-4-year window here at least. For your playoff contention, right? And TJ Edwards just got signed to a 3-year deal. You're looking for younger guys who are going to be able to go from ages, a lot of the guys are free agents right now off the rookie contract, 26 to age 30, right? You're going to be here for 4 years as we try to win a Super Bowl. We're not looking for a guy who's 30. We're not going to sign a guy who's 30 to a 4-year deal. We don't want a guy who's going to be 34 at the end of our potential Super Bowl window. You'll sign a guy like this, like a 1 or 2 year deal. But anyway, going back to number 9 overall here. So the fallout of this, there's a couple things, all right? I would not 100% rule out the possibility of them trading down again. But the things where it gets complicated is, well, I think people get lost in the idea that, well, they're at this point would only trade down for a quarterback. I don't think that's necessarily the case. Like, this happens all the time where you just trade up for a player. Like, if someone, say there's a team that's in love with Quentin Johnson and he falls, there's a chance someone might want to go there at 9. If your guy is Jackson Smith and Jigba, or your guy is Peter Skoronski, and you know that guy will be available at 11, I could see them, to Titans or anyone else, I could see them trading down again. Would you rule that out?
I probably am going to, just because you get dicier and dicier as more, like, there's gonna be 8 players off the board. You know, we talked about blue chip prospects last week.
Yeah, but if 4 of them are quarterbacks before that point.
Sure. But it's just like, as you move further down, it gets dicier, and as more players come off the board, and it's just like you leave more up to chance, I feel like. Because you said, okay, you feel confident your guy's going to be there, but you can't say with 100% certainty. And just with how much the Bears need still to do, I think you got back enough. Like, and that's why I think the 61st overall pick is really huge as far as this draft goes for this year. But I think at 9, they're going to feel comfortable getting, probably, Skoronski or whoever it may be. And I think they'll feel comfortable with that, and then just accept that, take it. Great. We got DJ Moore, and we're up in 30 some picks or 40 picks, whatever. So
that's true too. Yeah.
I think they're better, because you have 4 in the top 150 or something now, or 4 in the top
64, Jake. I believe it's 4 in the top, because you have 61, 64. You should have 53. I'm blanking on that, but 4 in the top 64, which is just and so here's okay. So again, things that are flying under the radar. That number 61 overall pick from the Panthers is flying under the radar, and here's why. Right? Like so you essentially have 4 picks in the first 2 rounds, right? Because of the Miami voided pick, 32, 32. 64. You have 4 picks in the first 2 rounds. You 3 second rounders, but the 64th pick is technically the first pick in the 3rd round, I believe.
Correct.
If I'm not mistaken.
Sure.
But so this gives you flexibility to be able to go after what we will call luxury assets, right? So I would like them to go after necessities at number 9, which would be anything in the interior. God, it is like absolutely torrentially downpouring outside. Nice. Someone in the trenches, right?
Yes.
We need an offensive lineman or even a wide receiver. This is a conversation I'll have with you in a second. But once you have 3 second-round picks, that allows you to maybe go after a running back. I've always, you know me, Jake, on this podcast, don't take a running back before round 4. Do not do it. Unless you're in the instance at the Bears room where you have this many second-round picks here and early round picks. You can do that. If you love Chase Brown, who I really like, had one of the highest RAS, raw athleticism scores of all running backs at the combine. You're fighting a Illini guy. The guy runs with power. He runs hard. You can afford to draft a luxury asset in the second round there. So I wouldn't rule that out. But here's the question I have for you. This is the question that I posted on Twitter, and I had a definitive answer to it. Does the DJ Moore signing, should the DJ Moore trade preclude you from drafting or even being interested in wide receivers at number 9 overall?
I think so.
But why?
Because
you can never have too many weapons. Am I wrong?
Sure. But you don't have the luxury of being like, okay, we have a complete roster here. Like, you right now have with the addition of DJ Moore, you have a very solid wide receiver room, and you have a true wide receiver 1, which you did not have before, which is why people were talking about, well, if you trade down to 9 or in the lower part of the top 10, whether it be 8 or 7 or 9, or even get to the teens, whatever, not important. If you were in this area, that's why people were like, oh, maybe you take Johnson or JSN or whatever. But now you have that true number 1. You have that guy who's still young too, at 25 and under contract for the next 3 seasons. You have so many other needs, like you said, in the trenches on both sides, offensive line, defensive line. Even linebackers still, like, okay, you signed TJ Edwards. Does that really preclude you from trying? And Jack Sanborn's still a guy who had a half season as undrafted free agent. You can't really sell me on. I like Jan Sanborn. I think he's gonna be good, but you can't sell me on. Oh, well, you can never have a guy. You can say that he's gonna be a star or that he's gonna be a Pro Bowl or whatever. He showed flashes, sure, great, but you might still need linebackers. Not the point. Anyway. Thing is, like, you still have so many other needs where with the addition of DJ Moore, it feels like you can kick the can down the road with wide receiver now. It's not the most pressing thing. You check it for sure was. You did not have enough playmakers. Now you have a really, really great playmaker that you acquire in this trade. You can check that box. Should you still try to target wide receivers in the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th round? Absolutely. 1000% you should. But DJ Moore brings the wide receiver playmaker priority down. a little bit.
It does.
It takes it from something that's super pressing. If you want Justin Fields to be good, you check that box. You're good. So yeah, you can never have too many playmakers, but it's not something that's at the top of your list anymore. It's something where you can afford to wait until day 2 or 3 to address and bring in more of those types of guys.
Yeah. Again, the biggest aspect of this is what do the Bears do in free agency? How does that, because if they get Orlando Brown Jr. or they get Javon Hargrave or both in free agency, then it's like, okay, well now, offensive line's less of a necessity to an extent, right? Defensive tackle's less of a necessity. Then, okay, maybe we do decide to say, hey, DJ Moore is going to be here for a couple of years. Chase Claypool's not going to, they're not going to sign him to an extension most likely. Darnell Mooney,
unless he plays really, really well.
Really well.
I mean, there's a chance.
There is a chance.
Right. And even if he doesn't have to play, like he doesn't have to be a 1,000-yard receiver. If you could sell him a big number 2 and you sign him to a reasonable contract, like
but if he plays really well, he's going to ask for a little bit more than that at that point. And then it's like, okay, so we're already paying DJ Moore, and then you know what, we're going to have to.
Not really though, because Carolina kept a lot of that salary.
Yeah, but they're still paying him a decent amount. I think it took like $12 million off their cap this year or something like that. Nothing crazy. But Darnell Mooney's going to be due for a contract extension next year. So if you were able, if you drafted Jackson Smith-Njigba, that solves financially your wide receiver problem too for 4 more years, because you'd be having a phenomenal first round wide receiver playing on a rookie contract. That's not going to cost you anything. It's going to cost you 5 times less than what you would have to pay Chase Claypool at that point if he has a productive season. So I wouldn't rule it out. I don't think it should preclude them from being interested in it.
Let me say it this way then. I think as of right now, like if the draft was tonight, I think it would. But you're right. If free agency could change the scope of this. As of right now, this moment, I would say I would be very surprised if they took, Jackson Smith-Njigba or wide receiver, pick your favorite, at number 9. But things could obviously change. As right now, it would surprise me. But going forward, yes, that certainly can change. But I think right now the emphasis is definitely going to be on the offensive and defensive line, or rather, let's just say the front 7 and blanket statement it.
Yeah, I would agree with that. So I want to ask you a question real quick about the Bears wide receiver core.
Okay,
with DJ Moore. And whether you debate all you want about Darnell Mooney or Chase Claypool being the 2 or 3, where does that wide receiver core? And I guess you can include Cole Kmet in this. Let's just talk about offensive weapons in general. Where does their offensive weapon group rank among the NFL now with DJ Moore? Because there's a lot of takes that say, well, DJ Moore just moved the needle for them. They're still a bottom 7 offensive weapon group as of right now. I would disagree with that. But where would you place them? Are you bold enough to say top half of the league?
Around there. I would say they're in that like 15 to 17 range. Somewhere around there. I would say they're in like that. I would say they're like, it's from being safe. I'd probably say they're at like 19 or 20. But I mean, they're not bottom 7. Like, let's think of it this way. You're better than the Cardinals because no Kyler Murray, so that immediately takes them out of that. That puts them near the bottom. You are better than, I would say, the Commanders. Still, the Commanders have good wide receivers, but they don't, have no idea what they have at quarterback. So I'd say you're better than them. Basically, everyone in the South, you're better than the Panthers for sure.
So bad.
You're better than the Falcons because they have no quarterbacks either. You're probably the Saints might be better than you because Carr's at least average quarterback.
Olave is just a stud.
Right, exactly. That's
Kamara's still there.
I'd say you're like, does Devontae Adams boost the Raiders high enough even without Waller and Adams probably boost you enough?
Probably.
So I'm trying to think off the top. You're probably better than the Steelers.
Yeah, I would agree. 100%. Not even close. 100% better than the Steelers. You're probably better than the Browns. I mean, come on. Amari Cooper. DJ Moore's better than Amari Cooper. Yes, you're better. I don't think people understand. Like, again, Darnell Mooney ended the year hurt, but if you consider him a number 3, he's the best number 3 in the NFL. Maybe Tyler Boyd is better. Maybe.
Yeah, I would say, yeah.
But he's top three in the NFL as wide receiver 3. Like, I think we need to understand what the Bears have now. Like there are no excuses anymore for Justin Fields at this point. There are no excuses as far as the weapons available to you. And
yes, 1,000%.
This is the year. Hopefully we can say the same about the offensive line, right? That there's no excuse. They sign enough guys in the draft well enough to where you don't have to make that an excuse. But as far as receivers, not only do you get DJ Moore, you get a guy in DJ Moore who is a great separator. He's going to get open. That's one of the reasons I think they went after him, because the type of player that he is, he fits the offense perfectly. He's a speed player. He's explosive. He's not afraid to go up and get it either. He's just a 5-tool wide receiver, if you can call it that. That's a baseball term that we're using for football here. But I just think it's a perfect fit. And again, they're not done here. Like, I think Mecole Hardman is 100% it's a real option. I mean, you'll see.
No, I laughed at this last week because I knew you were going to be a Mecole Hardman guy. Now I'm more on board with it because you're not expecting him to be the savior or the guy that unlocks the offense. You have that guy already. So now it's like, okay, I can get on board with that. For him to be your wide receiver 4, I quit. Okay, I can get on board with it.
Exactly. Last year, the savior was supposed to be Byron Pringle.
Famously.
We know how that, famously.
Right.
Probably my biggest blunder in this podcast history.
We'll be here all day.
My projection of my
yeah, that was tough. That was a tough look for you.
I'll tell you something I did yesterday, and you can tell me whether I'm stupid for it or not, and then we'll wrap up here. I put $100 on Justin Fields to win the MVP. At
oh my god! At what number? 20-1.
20-1.
Oh my god, Kevin.
So okay.
See,
Justin Fields received an MVP vote last year.
Let's have a betting conversation really quick. If you were going to do that anyway, and we thought the Bears were going to get this much better and the offense was going to get better, why didn't you do it before the trade when the number was probably double that? It was probably 50. It's probably more.
Yeah, I mean, because
that's a betting conversation though. Which
there was still, I
was one, Kevin.
That's not bad.
There's no value there.
There's good value in that. Dude, Jared Goff is higher than him. There's value in that. If the Bears make the playoffs and he is breaking records again, how many times do I have to read you Lamar Jackson's numbers when he won the MVP award?
So that's the thing. It would have to be make the playoffs, because no MVP candidate has ever won the MVP without making the playoffs, because it's a quarterback-driven award, offensive-driven award. So you'd have to make the playoffs. So you at least 9-8, if not win the division, and you'd have to break records again, which I mean isn't completely out of the question, I guess. But like, I don't know. My brain is just wired for gambling thought.
I know, but are you mad at me because you don't think he's going to win it, because you just don't think the value is good enough?
I just don't think you got any value out of it. If
that's fair.
I think because knowing you were probably always at some point going to bet Justin Fields to win the MVP this year. You should have done it.
Yeah, I probably should have
after we had last week's episode.
I got excited, but again, I don't like. Things would have changed for me if they hadn't traded for anyone, or if they didn't draft a wide receiver. I would be a little bit less encouraged to do it. But
you were always convinced that they were going to get somebody. You were always convinced that they were going to get Higgins or Evans or Hopkins.
Yeah, I was always
maybe not DJ Moore, like we talked about.
I messed up, but nonetheless, it's in. It's been made.
Sure, I don't think it's impossible.
It's not impossible. Again, especially considering the Bears are going to be on national TV 4 to 5. They're going to be on the national TV 5 times this year. With the amount of not superstars, but the exciting players that they have on offense now, if they make some good signings with Justin Fields, because of the Chicago market,
still a premier franchise. Yeah,
come on, they're going to be on primetime 5 times, and he's going to do stupid, crazy things on primetime every single one of those times. Patrick Mahomes isn't going to win it again. Josh Allen, might win it.
Burrow.
I just think it is 100% a chance. So that's all I got on that. Just again, a couple other things on the trade overall. Like, Ryan Poles played this perfectly. I think he just absolutely played this perfectly, and it's a better outcome for me than trading number 4. Like, I already said that because you already got your wide receiver 1 and Will Anderson, but I think you just caught you just hold all the leverage. You held all the leverage, and I think his plan and strategy throughout the offseason worked. Of saying, hey, we've got all these offers, we've got these picks. If you, Carolina, you've been in QB purgatory for 7 years now. You got to get out of it. You want your guy. Guess what? If you want your guy, you got to give us DJ Moore. He held the leverage, and thank God they had the number 1 overall pick, because there's no way something like this would happen if they didn't have it. Even if they had number 2, it probably wouldn't have played out this way. He played it perfectly. You could not have played it better than how Ryan Poles played it. And, I made a bunch of memes on all of the accounts that, like, they let him cook, man. Yeah. They let him cook, and he came through. And like, I think people don't understand how rare that has been for Bears fans, that your GM, like, came through in a way that not only made your team better, but also increased value for your team over the course of the next couple years, because we were all thrilled with Ryan Pace when he traded for Khalil Mack. Sure. But in all those instances, he was giving away assets, not recouping assets, while in this case, getting an asset. Like, again, they got assets and got DJ Moore. Like, it's impossible. Ryan Poles played it perfectly. 10 out of 10. King Poles, let him cook.
Yeah, he did. And this was the ideal scenario. Like, now you get to go into free agency, like we talked about last week, with, okay, that's done and dusted. We're good. We're confident where we are. We're comfortable where we are. Now we just attack free agency. We know what our needs are. So yeah, I mean, it's great overall. 10 out of 10, A+ trade. I mean, it's been a while since we've seen something happen with the Bears, a move we haven't. And everyone's like, slam dunk, 100% win for the. It's been a long time, probably since the Khalil Mack trade, right?
Yeah, I mean,
because even the Justin Fields,
then people didn't think that was like. It was a consensus.
It's been a long time since it's across the board been like the Bears.
The Fields pick was, yeah.
Well, I mean, but people even still were like, well, whatever. Mm-hmm. There were still gripes with that. Like, this has been a long time since it was overwhelmingly A+, 10 out of 10 for the Bears. So really great. A great start to, the off season, if you want to consider it now. This is the official off season. Great start to it. Awesome, like great. Launching pad. I mean, call it what it is, a launching pad into free agency now. We already signed TJ Edwards, which we'll talk about a little bit more on Wednesday when we go through more free agency stuff. So, until then, lot to build off of, and we'll be back on Wednesday to talk about hopefully some more signings. Obviously the tampering period is open now. Wednesday signings can become official. The league year officially starts, quote unquote. So we'll be back, Bears Nation Pod, on Wednesday. We'll be back on March 15th to talk about hopefully a handful of signings for the Bears, and maybe even some rumors that we can get to, and things that'll be happening. So join us for that, and until then, this has been Bears Nation Podcast for Kevin and myself. As always, bear down.
Bear down.